You're listening to the Monday Night Community Show with Daniel on BRFM.
This is the Daniel Monday Night Community Show on demand through YouTube. Thank you very much for choosing to listen to us through this method. If you'd like to keep up to date with when I add new interviews, then subscribe to this channel. Speaking to Russell. Russell, as always, it's good to see you here.
Good evening, Daniel. As I say, it's great to be here as well. I've been employed by Swale Borough Council now for over 6 years and as an environment officer. And in my role, I deal with a wide range of environmental issues from noise, odours, fly tipping and waste offences. This evening, I'm here to talk about fly tipping and householders' duty of care over waste that they produce.
And I was thinking, actually, it must be sort of a busy time of year for your department.
Yes, Daniel. Our department, which is the Environmental Response Team, receive a great deal of reports regarding fly tipping incidents within the borough, and we investigate every single incident that's brought to our attention. We're also in touch with the residents as well, and the residents tell us that keeping the borough clean and tidy is a priority for them. So the Environmental Response Team continually strive to find ways of reducing fly tipping within Swale. We also have an excellent track record for successfully prosecuting fly tippers and individuals who fail in their duty of care to ensure that their waste is correctly disposed of. Later on, I'll go over some of our successes and our results in court, and you can kind of see where I'm coming from.
And at the moment, we're joined in the studio with Russell. He's the environmental officer. We're covering fly tipping and the duty of care over waste. And our next question I was going to ask you is about the increase of fly tipping. I think you wanted to cover about that, or are there sort of an increase?
Yes, across the country and in Swale, there is an increase in fly tipping, and the local authority, as they will investigate every single incident that's passed to us. Also, the local authority promotes the fact that all residents and businesses have a duty of care over the waste that they produce. And this evening, though, I want to focus on householders' duty of care. That's all the waste that's produced from a household. The first point that residents must be aware of is that they must check that if they're getting waste removed from their property by somebody, that the person removing the waste is authorised to do that work and take it away. This will entail the householder asking the person removing the waste, "Are you a registered waste carrier?" If they come back and they advise that they are, then that's fine. We interview under caution a vast number of residents tell us that they haven't made these checks and they've given the waste to an unknown third party without making any checks at all, and they're then unable to identify who's taken the waste and where the waste has gone to. A registered waste carrier will have registered with the Environment Agency, and they should be carrying a waste carrier's licence with them when they're operating. So this is probably the most important step that a resident can take. Check they've got waste carriers, and then your waste is being removed by someone that's legitimate. And I said most important step. A legitimate waste carrier should have no issue in producing this to a potential customer when requested to do so. So don't be afraid to ask. Make the checks and cover yourself.
What other steps can residents take to ensure the correct removal of waste?
Well, as mentioned before, the most important check is checking that the person is authorised to do so. They should, as mentioned before, present you with a waste carrier's licence. Other steps, it's also very helpful to retain those details. So if they show you a licence, make a note of the number. There's nothing wrong with doing that. So you have a record of who's taken your waste away. Requesting a receipt for the waste is also a good step to ensure that an authorised person has removed your waste. Also, it isn't a legal requirement. However, there's no harm in taking a photograph of the waste on your phone to cover yourself should the waste be tipped. Then, if the waste is tipped, you can then clearly identify the waste to the local authority from a picture on your phone. These are a few steps you can take.
And that sounds good advice, Russell. So what other steps can a resident take?
A resident could also make a note of vehicle registration, description of the vehicle that comes and takes the waste away. Also, don't be afraid to ask questions. You know, if you're paying someone to take your waste away, then you're perfectly entitled to ask where that waste is being taken to. We find that most people we interview under caution have very little information regarding the people they gave the waste to or where their waste has eventually ended up. And remember, just a few simple checks and some cautious steps could prevent you from being the victim of a rogue waste carrier who has no intent in taking your waste to a registered site and instead will just tip it in the countryside. I will add that we've had successfully prosecuted householders for failing in their duty of care, as well as the fire tippers that have tipped the waste. So cover yourself and make sure that the person taking your waste away is authorised.
Russell, how does an individual actually register to be a waste carrier?
Well, as I say, we was talking about duty of care this evening. I thought it appropriate to say that a registered waste for someone that wants to carry waste on a highway, they can apply for a licence from the Environment Agency. However, initially they can have a look at the government website, which is www.gov.uk, and this site will have all the information they need, and based on the information on these pages they can decide whether or not they need to be a registered waste carrier. Also, there are a couple of useful registers on this site in which residents can make further checks to see if an organisation or individual are registered waste carriers, or if not, so if in doubt, this is another place where you can have a check. So just to recap, the website containing all the information about waste carriers and how to register is www.gov.uk. Just go onto the website, enter into the search bar waste carriers, and that will bring up all the relevant pages that you need.
So how successful have the council been in bringing fly tippers to justice?
Well, Daniel, over the course of last year we've had some fantastic results at court. Swale Borough Council have successfully prosecuted a number of individuals for fly tipping and duty of care offences over the last few years. I'll just briefly go over a few recent sort of cases just so you can kind of get the gist of the offences and the kind of penalties that people are getting at court if they get it wrong. A man from Herne Bay was recently prosecuted for failing in his duty of care over waste that he produced when it was fly tipped within the borough. He was fined a total of £580 in court and received a criminal record. Now, this particular case, the man in question that was found guilty and fined was a professional tradesman who was employed to fit a kitchen for a customer. He failed in his duty of care when he gave the old kitchen that he had ripped out to a man who later fly tipped it at Crockham Road in Herne Hill, which is Faversham direction, which is in the countryside, a location of natural beauty. And as I say, he failed in his duty of care. He gave that waste to somebody that tipped it at that location and was found guilty and received £580 in fines. So the penalties are quite high. Another man in Sheerness was prosecuted for failing in his duty of care over waste that he produced. When his waste was fly tipped to Old Ferry Road, he was fined a total of £315 in court and also received a criminal record. Another case of a man from Sittingbourne who was prosecuted for failing in his duty of care over waste when it was fly tipped at Church Road in Tong, and he was fined a total of £1,000 in court for this offence and received a criminal record. So you can see, Daniel, from these results, the penalties for getting it wrong are very high, and the fines can be even greater than the ones I've just mentioned there. And Daniel, if the listeners are interested in the work that the council undertake to keep the borough clean and tidy, then they can look at the social media sites for Swale Borough Council. We have a Facebook and Twitter site, so people can search for those, and all the results, these court results and other stuff that we do to keep the borough clean and tidy are all there. So the Swale Borough Council Facebook and Twitter pages. And
Before you go, Russell, was there anything else you'd like to cover? And I was hoping you could then refresh our listeners of any of those useful contact details you covered during the interview.
Yes, Daniel. The environmental response team at Swale are committed to apprehending fly tippers and committers of environmental crime, and anyone thinking of cutting corners when it comes to waste disposal, just don't do it. Residents in the borough are angered by these crimes and regularly report to us when they occur. We are also seeing an increased willingness from members of the public who witness fly tipping to supply us with their help, their witness statements, and potentially attend court to help the local authority in prosecuting these individuals. So the great majority of residents support the local authority in the action that we take. Just to briefly go back over, if anybody needs any information about waste carriers licences, it's the government website, which is www.gov.uk. To report an incident of fly tipping to Swale Borough Council, the phone number is 01795 417 850. That's 01795 417 850, and that number can also be found on the Swale Borough Council website. If you are online, go onto the website. There's also a Do It Online page where residents can go on there and they can report fly tipping on the Do It Online page, going through the sections to the Report It page. So that's another avenue that people can report fly tipping to us. And also, as I say, if listeners are interested in the work the Swale Borough Council do to combat fly tipping, catch fly tippers and generally keep the borough clean and tidy, then feel free to look at the Swale Borough Council Facebook and Twitter pages on social media. And thank you, Daniel, thank you for having me this evening.
No, Russell, thank you very much for coming along, and we look forward to seeing you for another visit as part of a regular slot.
Cheers, Daniel. Looking forward to it.
That is Russell this evening, Environmental Officer, and for this interview we were covering all about fly tipping and the residents' duty of care over waste.